Chapter 2. Nathan. In his hand was the second returned official letter he had sent to bring her back to the pack. The first had not been returned. He knew she would have opened it. Curiosity would have gotten the better of her if she had not felt the responsibility to answer her alpha's letter. Nathan knew that they had not parted on good terms, but it was time 𝑳𝑰𝑗ayla returned home. He had seen her on TV by mere chance, standing outside the front of a courthouse, speaking to the press about the case she had just won for a client she was representing in a high-profile divorce case. 6 long years had passed, and she seemed bright, strong, and filled with confidence. She had looked amazing dressed to kill in that dark blue skirt that was tight all the way down to her knees, and a soft green blouse which had clung to her body in the breeze. Her bright green eyes had seemed so full of life. Her comments to the press were straight to the point. No nonsense, and she didn't answer anything torrid or gossipy. Life away from the pack seemed to suit her. His chest had ached a little, knowing he was the reason why she was out there and not here. He and Havoc, his wolf, had watched her with great interest. She had always wanted to be a lawyer, work in the pack's legal department. Not much cause for divorce lawyers in the Wolfen Society, but contract law was rife, and if he remembered correctly, that was what she was specializing in while studying. They had watched from the lounge in the common room, as Beta, Jackson, Gamma, Steven, and Delta, Ethan, had all also seen her on the TV that night, as all 4 of them had been having a drink and hunting for a movie to watch to wind down after a long day. Jackson had been in charge of the remote and was flicking through the channels where her beautiful face had popped up on the screen. Her name and law firm were rolling across the bottom of the screen. It was a recap of the news of the day in the human world. None of them had seen her since that day, the day he had forced her to leave. She had left and never come back, just as he ordered her to. Looking at her beautiful face, she had grown into a very beautiful young woman, just 26 now. Listening to her voice, he had felt a pang of regret, and now realized he missed his longtime friend. They'd grown up together, trained together, and been lovers once. Now there was nothing, and she was gone. "Bring her home." Havoc had growled at him, and had been relentless in the days that followed to bring her home. Just wouldn't shut up about it. And so he agreed with his wolf and made the decision that it was time to bring her home to the pack where she belonged. So he had sent the first official letter to her after Jackson had tracked her down. It hadn't been that hard, less than a day. Clearly she wasn't hiding, just staying away. Now he sat in his office over a month later, annoyed and verging on angry. She had ignored the first letter, or so he thought. There was a possibility she had not gotten it, but he didn't think that was it. Jackson would not have made a mistake. They had all grown up together, and she had been just as good a friend with him as she had been with Nathan. Actually, Jackson had been really pissed off about her sudden leaving by Nathan's order. That day, Nathan had been angered and so had Havoc, and they had responded without much thought. That fateful day he'd sent her away, acted solely on instinct, but had not given it much thought since that day either. Not till he'd seen her on the TV. Sophia had been really pissed off that she had not been stripped of rank and turned from the pack by his father, Alpha Blaine, at the time. She had demanded that 𝑳𝑰𝑗ayla be made a rogue for the insult, but his father had simply stated, "No, it's inappropriate under the circumstances." Those circumstances being that he knew that 𝑳𝑰𝑗ayla and Nathan had been sleeping together for just over a year, and he felt there was more to it, and Sophia had probably overreacted. Due to the move she had made that week, the letter should have arrived. It was possible that she hadn't received it, but there was also the possibility that she had read it and ignored it, moved to avoid him. Turning the letter over in his hand, he looked at his Beta. "So this is how it's going to play out." "You did order her to leave and never come back," Jackson replied simply. "If she didn't get the first letter and return the other 2, perhaps she doesn't know the content." He was leaning casually against the wall. He appeared bored. Nathan returned his attention to the envelope and stared at it for a long time, trying to decide a course of action. He nodded to himself after several minutes of contemplation. "All right, let's make it really official. Something she can't just ignore without the threat of retrieval." His eyes moved to his Beta. Jackson sighed heavily and turned those gray eyes on him, a frown on his face. "You sure, boss? You want to do that?" "Yes," Nathan replied firmly. "Send it to her law firm and make it to be signed for so we know she got it." His mouth quirked in a smug smile. "Let's see you ignore me now, little wolf," he thought. I can play as well as you can, only you can't ignore me. I am your alpha, and you will do as I command."